The hope for many Chicago Bears fans is that the Chicago Bulls make moves this offseason that firmly put them in consider status, and then we're completely out of the rebuilding phase, which I do think with a series of calculated moves will be more and more clear for the Chicago Bears. Could the Chicago Bears land Trey Hendrickson? They're odds-on favorites reportedly to land him, according to a source. And DJ Moore, is his future actually secure? We're going to talk about three key free agents that the Chicago Bears could go after, and the Bears are quietly preparing to move on from Dayo Odeyingbo, which is something a lot of Bears fans are going to love to hear. We'll talk about all that and more right after this. What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host, there, Hayes. But more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and get into the content for today, y'all. One of the biggest needs that many Bears fans see that need for this team is another edge on this team. Now, I think the defensive line needs an overhaul overall, but it will go a long way to get another big-time edge there out on the opposite side of Montez Sweat. Montez, who had 10 sacks himself last season, if you can add another defensive end that can get another 10 sacks or even more, that goes a long way in helping the Chicago Bears have that type of defense, because I do think the secondary is going to be in a much better place next season if they have relative health, right? And I think that's a big thing with that one. So there's a number of edges that we've talked about a lot this season. We've, of course, talked about Max Crosby, who is a favorite by a lot of Chicago Bears fans. I love him too. He's going to be more difficult to get. And that contract is absolutely huge. So not only would you be losing on future capital, you'd also have to give up reportedly 2 first-round picks to potentially get him in there for the Chicago Bears. And that's just such a large target to give up for the Chicago Bears. A lot of assets and money to give up in regards to that. And one of the other names that's been mentioned a lot in regards to being an edge is Trey Hendrickson, the current edge with the Cincinnati Bengals. And Greg Allman of Fox Sports talked about that and actually talked about Chicago being a destination for Trey Hendrickson, saying this: Hendrickson doesn't have the luster he had a year ago. Instead of coming off back-to-back 17.5 sack seasons and 4 straight Pro Bowls, he's now coming off core muscle surgery in December that limited him to 4 sacks in 7 games in 2025. He got 1-year, $29 million deal from Bengals last season, but isn't likely to draw as much this time around. ESPN has him as the league's number 1 overall free agent, but will he get more than 1 year guaranteed and much more than $20 million a year? He needs 19 sacks to reach 100 for his career and could easily get that in 2 more healthy seasons. So, Trey Hendrickson, right? What's the cost? What's the cost that's going to be there to get him? And it's a little bit different with Trey Hendrickson, because even if you were to pay him, for example, the same money as Max Crosby, which coming off that surgery that he's had, he's probably not going to get that level of money. But even if that was what you were going to have to give up for him, you're not giving up draft picks to get there. And there are a lot of Bears fans that have looked at what that could mean as far as the Bears maintaining their draft assets, which I think is important. If you can maintain draft assets even while having to go after a big time salary, that goes a long way in just helping your books, future proofing your books. And Caleb Williams' contract extension is right around the corner, I should say. And so that's something that you also have to consider in this one. So potentially getting Trey Hendrickson in free agency would be a huge get for the Chicago Bears. And while, he's coming off a major surgery, he's coming off a season where he had 11 solo tackles, 4 of those being sacks. That happened in 7 games. You add 10 more games to that, you're still talking about a guy that's having 16 sacks, right? If you extrapolate that over for a full 17-game season, if not more than that. So, there's still more than enough reason to believe that Trey Hendrickson is still going to be a weapon, no matter how you sign him. Yes, he's 31 years old. Yeah, when you get on the other side of 30, you start looking at some things and questioning some things, but there's just no doubt. And to say this, and I think it actually goes a good way, if the market is saying for Trey Hendrickson, as Greg is alluding to here, that it's only going to dictate a 1, maybe 2-year deal, I think that's perfect for the Bears. I actually think that's perfect for the Chicago Bears if that ends up being all it takes to get Trey Hendrickson in there, because, he's 31 years old. You sign him for a 1-year deal, it gives you a proof of concept of like, all right, let's go out here and win. Then maybe you can bring him back. If not, maybe Austin Booker's made that next step. Maybe then you have prepared yourself for a bigger term salary cap, and then maybe you have a bigger appetite to actually give up some picks to revamp the defensive line further. So there are a lot of reasons why a 1 to 2 year deal, if that's what the market is truly dictating for Trey Hendrickson, that it could make some sense. The question becomes about, with Trey Hendrickson being a free agent and having his choice to go anywhere that he wants to go, would he come to the Chicago Bears? What do the Bears have to do to make this an alluring situation for him? And I think Dennis Allen has to go to him, and he has to, in those meetings, in whatever they have with him as a free agent, he has to highlight what he feels schematically is going to come from having him and Montez Sweat, and then Austin Booker backing those guys up, and then what the defensive backfield and what the secondary is going to do as well. You convince somebody of a Trey Hendrickson of the vision there and how he can come in and help shore up one of your biggest needs as far as on that defensive side of the ball. Maybe you very well could get him. So, I would love to see Ryan Poles take advantage of that if the market is there for him in that case. And we'll see. And, if they're saying that he's not going to even draw as much as the $29 million deal he got, last year, hey, that is a great opportunity for Ryan Poles to come in here and cook. Is he going to do it? That's the question that comes down here. Now, reportedly, Hendrickson is going to be seeking a multi-year deal with multiple years of guaranteed money. Now, that's the part that comes down to. Now, he could be seeking that, but if the market doesn't dictate that, then is he going to get it? But if that's really what he wants and the Bears are the only one that's willing to go in there and offer that, then we'll see, right? Like, yeah, it's a tightrope that you have to walk there. But I do think the benefit of adding Trey Hendrickson without giving up draft picks is what makes that so alluring, and what would even be me being willing to take him to take a little bit more of a risk financially because you're keeping your future assets. That's just my personal opinion. I want to hear from you guys down below on this one. When it comes to Trey Hendrickson, what he's shown over his NFL career, he got paid $29 million last season. He may have to come down to more, $20 million, and he wants a multi-year deal. How many years would you be willing to offer Trey Hendrickson? At what price? And then what does that do? How do you view long-term with Trey Hendrickson, Montez Sweat, as your edges? Do you think that is enough to really start the Bears defensive line or revamp? I think at that point you still got to do a lot in the draft too. You may not spend a lot of the free agent capital if that's the case, but let me know what you guys think on that one down below. And talking about free agents, I want to go to this article that came from Clutch Points. They talked about 3 sneaky good free agent acquisitions that the Chicago Bears could make this offseason. And a number of these names are a little bit alluring to me. Some of them are a little bit, we'll see, right? But the first one that they mentioned is Alec Pierce. Now, they mentioned this because they talk about the Bears potentially moving on from DJ Moore and trading him. And this is something that we've talked about here too, right? Like, not to say that I think that the Bears should trade DJ Moore, but if the Bears get into this situation this offseason where they get a deal, they feel like they can move DJ Moore, they feel confident in who and what Luther Burden and Rome Odeyingbo is going to be, and they look at it and say, all right, now we just need to add another guy that can come in here and supplement. We don't necessarily need somebody of the caliber of DJ Moore because of where we are. Alec Pierce is 25 years old. He's 6'3", 211 pounds. This is a guy that had 1,003 yards and 6 touchdowns last year with the Indianapolis Colts, and I do think he fits the offensive scheme and philosophy very well. I think you look at Pierce, a former second-round pick in 2022 by Cincinnati, he's proven himself to make big plays, and that's really what you want, especially if you're going to put him at the slot. You can still leave Luther Burden at the slot, but maybe Luther Burden gets more targets, whatever it comes down to it, right? But when he's when you look at the free agents, he's one of the best wide receiver free agents out there, right? He led in yards per reception each of the last 2 seasons. He's able to go down and catch the ball deep. He opens that up. When you think about Caleb Williams and the arm that he has and going to some of those deep throws that Caleb Williams like, you have Pierce there. If, and this is only if the Chicago Bears do move on from DJ Moore to create space for an edge or whatever else it is, getting Pierce wouldn't necessarily be the worst thing for the Chicago Bears at all. I look at that and I say that is a very solid acquisition by the Bears, and this is a guy that can come in, play. You keep that versatility that you have. I'm not saying he's as good as DJ Moore, but when you look at the rise that like Rome Odeyingbo and Luther Burden should each have in next season, and as long as they can stay healthy, of course, like Pierce is a guy that can definitely come in here and help the Chicago Bears. What I also like is that he doesn't miss a lot of games. Over the course of his NFL career, he's never missed more than 2 games, and that was last year. Each before that, he had 2 seasons of missing 1 game and 1 season of playing all 17. The guy doesn't miss games. He has a career average of 18.7 yards per reception and 17 touchdowns over 4 years. This dude can play. That's just what it comes down to. He can absolutely play. And so you bring a guy like him in there to replace DJ Moore, your wide receiver core is still stacked. I think it's still a very stacked wide receiver core. And then at that point, man, you're still looking at growth from your two younger guys. Don't hate it at all. Let me know what you guys think on Alec Pierce potentially coming, or Alec Pierce, not Alex, Alec Pierce coming to the Chicago Bears. Next up in this, they have Tariq Woolen name. Now, this is an interesting one, right? Of course, Jalen Johnson was injured all last season for the most part. He played in 7 games, and even in those 7 games, he didn't really look very much like the Jalen Johnson we've come to expect. Then you also look at Kyler Gordon, another guy that's been hurt as well, right? If the Bears do want to go after a big-name cornerback, Tariq Woolen could definitely help the Chicago Bears. The question I look at that and say, the money that it's going to take to get him, I don't know, man. He has a base salary of, well, this season doesn't matter, but like when you already look at Jalen Johnson having $15 million of a cap hit, or base salary next year and $26 million of a cap hit, it brings some questions there. Now, Woolen, no doubt, is a really good cover man. And the Bears do need that, I think, as well. He's impacted the Seattle Seahawks defense in each of the last 4 years as well. He had 41 tackles in 2025 and 12 passes deflected as well, and 1 interception. This is a guy that can absolutely help. There's just no questions or doubt about it. 6'4", 210 pounds as well. He can cover some of the more bigger, athletic wide receivers in there, and that's where we had a problem with like C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I think when you look at Jalen Johnson, Reek, and then still having Kyler Gordon there at the nickel, there's a lot of flexibility and personality there. Now, what do you do with Tyreek Stevenson? What do you do with Terrell Smith? That's another question. You have to figure out there, but we know that the corners are a very important part. Those defensive backs are a super big part of what Dennis Allen likes to do schematically. So having the versatility in that is what really adds to what the Bears are trying to make the next step defensively this year. So I like it. Great guy to have on the list. Next up that they have is Brian Cook. That's the safety. Now, we already know, we talked a lot about it. Ryan Poles has buried the lead. He plans on keeping, Kevin Byard. We got to figure out what's going on with Jaquan Brisker. But if you do move on from either one of those guys, right, if for some reason the money, maybe they get another offer from a different team, whatever else it is, Cook isn't necessarily a bad replacement there. And we just talked about it. Defensive backs. I talk a lot about the corners, but the defensive backs in general, with how many that Dennis Allen likes having out there on the field, that is a very big part of the game. So you want to make sure that part of your rotation is going to do good. And Brian Cook can play. That's just flat out. He can play. He's a baller, big, strong, smart. And I think that's important with that safety as well. 6'1", 206 pounds. He's 26 years old. So if you do let Jaquan Brisker walk, right, I'll just go through the assumption that Kevin Byard stays because of Ryan Poles' words. If Kevin Byard stays and you pivot then to Brian Cook to be in there and come in and play with Kevin Byard, I think that you don't miss a lot than what you've had from Jaquan Brisker. Now, there's a case to be made that Jaquan is the better player when he's fully healthy, right? He's over 100 tackles, all that type of thing. How he's also used as a blitz guy, can get to the quarterback, those type of things. Brian Cook doesn't have as much as that. He has 1 sack on his NFL career. Brian Cook doesn't have that. He's 1 sack on his NFL career, but I still like him. I still like the guy. 85 tackles, 6 passes deflected last year as well. There's a guy that can absolutely punish receivers also. He does not have the hands to get interceptions. He doesn't get a whole lot of interceptions, but at 26 years old, I think if you're replacing Jaquan Brisker with a healthier young player that's of similar age bracket, you can get that. When you look at it, the most games he's ever missed in his career were 5. That was his second year in 2023. He's coming off back-to-back seasons of playing all 17 games, and as a rookie, he played 16 games. The health aspect is not a big of a question for Brian Cook, and I think that's a reason that you're looking at who can bring you some of the things that you have with Jaquan Brisker without the injury concern. Now, Jaquan, we know, played all 17 games last season. Really good season from him to be able to do that. But I don't hate the name here. These are names that I think all make sense, and names that I don't think the Bears will have to break the bank for. And that's a key thing, especially as we're talking about like the going after potentially the Max Crosby's, the Trey Hendricksons, any type of move that can save you some money. That's an important part of this. And so we got to see if this makes sense for the Bears, if the Bears go forward with a player like that. But players to look out for to see, maybe they become Chicago Bears next season. But with that said, too, DeAndre Swift was interviewed by Adam Rank, and he was asked about the Chicago Bears and the offseason, the 2026 offseason, and what the Bears need to do. He said this, right, in regards to taking the next step. He says, that's everything. We did it last year. That's over with. Definitely got to start from ground zero and then go back to work. Every year is different. We got to work even harder to get back to the point where we're in and even go further. And that's the mindset that Ben Johnson also said, right? He's echoing the sentiments of his head coach. You know what that is? That's a sign of a head coach that has ownership of the room, the locker room, and the respect of the players, because that is exactly this back to square one approach is what Ben Johnson sent us off with. And if you instill that in your players and your players buy into that, they're going to come back even hungrier in the next year. And that's what Ben Johnson wants. Again, I know I talk a lot glowingly about Ben Johnson and what he's been able to do as a head coach here. And I think it's all legitimate. I don't think these are things that you can just look at and say they happen by happenstance. Ben Johnson has changed the culture here, and he's done it through hard work, implementing things, and accountability. And when you do those things, that's when you see your roster believes in you, your players believe in you, your fan base believes in you, and it gives your front office a more of a runway to go out there and get things that need to get done. You know, I say this. You guys know I talk to you guys every day. I'm in the comments every day, right? I talk to you a lot of guys. I listen to your voicemails, all that. I don't think I've ever seen the Bears go into a postseason where they have a lot of things that they need to fix. But it seems like, and I'm not saying universally, but more than not, Bears fans are believing the Bears can get this done. You look at last season, for example, there were Bears fans that completely doubted Ryan Poles' ability to turn over that offensive line and get the offensive line. What do we hear? Oh, Ryan Poles doesn't evaluate offensive line good. He only brings in offensive lines that were mid like him. We heard all of that. And I understood it at the point. But now you look at like what people are doing and saying, like people are like, hey, no, we got a chance to get this done. We got a chance to improve this aspect of our game and get to the place that we all want to get to as fans of this team. And that goes to show you, I think Ben Johnson has had a large part in that. I think, you know, the culture shift that's been here in Chicago has a large part to do with why fans feel a little bit more safe and feeling like the Bears can actually make another step. Now, you still have some pessimists, but I think that's going to be there regardless. You have franchises that have won Super Bowls that still have pessimists in it. So I'm not going to knock any pessimists because, you know, having a year of success is good. Having sustained success over multiple years is more difficult to attain. And that's what we have to get to for some of those Bears fans to start turning around and really looking more optimistic about what this Bears team can be. And we'll see if they can do that. I hope that they can do that. I would love to see this Bears team be able to do that. If they can, great. If they can't, you know, we'll see. We'll talk about it, we'll review it, and we'll see what needs to be done next. But I think a lot of people have faith that this team is going to be able to make the next step, make a step forward. The big step as far as getting to the Super Bowl, getting to the NFC title game, we'll see what they can do in that, but that just seems like there's more and more faith, and that starts with your players, right? You have to get the faith of your locker room first because that gets the one band, one sound. You get that, and you start seeing a team and an organization that's all moving lock and step, and then eventually the fan base starts looking at it and saying, well, shit, look at what we're doing, but you got to accomplish it on the field. So, you know, DeAndre Swift saying that they got to go back harder, they got to go back to and work from the ground up. We do. I love hearing that a team that, you know, I said a lot during the season, we ain't accomplish it. And that triggered some Bears fans and hearing me say that. They're like, wait a second, we did accomplish X, Y, Z. And it's like, it was more so to say like the work ain't done, right? And so the players feel that. The head coach feels that. So you goddamn right, I feel that, and I feel vindicated in saying that because we haven't accomplished. And the goal is that we look back on this 2 and 3 years and we look at this 2025 season and say that was a great step, but look at what we accomplished afterwards, right? That's what I hope happens for this team. Now, they're going to have to earn it. They're going to have to show it through the work, and we'll see if they can get it done. Talked a lot about this on this episode about free agency, right? And creating space and those type of things. And reportedly, the Bears are reportedly looking to try to get off of Dayo Odeyingbo's contract if they can, right? So we'll see what happens there if they're able to get that done. But that's the direct quote we're going to read here says this. I think if the Bears can get an injury settlement with Dayo Odeyingbo, they will do that and get him off the roster. He didn't play well last year. Who knows how much he's going to play in 2026? Whatever he does play, he's going to be compromised coming off that injury, and he has no guarantee money in 2027. It makes very little sense to keep him, but that depends on what they can accomplish since he has plenty of guaranteed money coming his way in 2026. Now, that's a big thing. If the Bears can get some type of injury thing to go on with this one came from Bill Zimmerman, by the way, of Windy City Gridiron, who did write that. If the Bears can get off Dayo's contract, where he's slated to get paid $20 million next season, do you know what that does for the Bears? Like, that alone gets the Bears from being over the cap to under the cap. And no matter what type of settlement they can work out with that one. Now, there may be some money left on after that settlement, but hey, I tell you what, get him off of it. And that's not no knock on Dayo. Maybe Dayo is just better as a depth piece. He's been solid in his career as a player that's come off the bench and been depth. We tried to use that to make him a starter last year. It didn't work. But if the Bears can truly get off that Dayo contract and make and use that for some flexibility, that's a big step in the right direction, that alone. So we'll see if the Bears can get that done. Right now, it's just pure speculation by a writer, but it does start piquing some interest in, hey, what does that do for the Bears' flexibility if they're able to get that? He didn't play well, to the point of the quote there. He didn't play well even when he did play. So even if you do have hopes that he's going to be able to get back out there on the field, he wasn't playing well when he was on the field. You can get that off that contract. Hey, that goes a long way for the Bears. But that's it, man. Tell me what type of offseason you guys want to see from this team. I think this is the one of the season where we need to see what takes a team from a good team to a great team. And we'll see. We don't need 10 splash moves. We need 2, 3, 4 really smart moves and draft picks, and we'll see what they do with that. Drop your thoughts down in the comments. Make sure you guys on, would you sign Trey Hendrickson? You keeping DJ Moore with, Alec Pierce being out there with somebody else you'd want to look at? Should the Bears draft, build, whatever? Let me know what you guys think on that down below. You can follow us at Shy Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.